Hello, everyone, and welcome to a casual conversation. We're going to talk about AI security operations. We're going to talk about the role of MSSPs. We're going to have some fun today. But let's get right into who we are. So, my name is Rick Mishka. I work for Avant Communications, which is a technology service distributor in the United States. And we are proud to be partners and work with the folks over at AgileBlue. Tony, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right, Rick, thank you so much for that. I like the difference of the beard and the non-beard. We got both Ricks. My name's Tony Petricola. I am co-founder and president of AgileBlue. We are an AI-based security operations platform.
That's wonderful. Yeah, they won't let me change that picture. They like the way it looks pre-Rick and post-Rick, so it's kind of fun from that standpoint.
Gotcha.
Let's see if we can't go ahead and just jump into the agenda, right? We're going to be talking around some introductions around cyber resilience. We're going to talk a little bit about Agile Blue and what AI security operations actually is. We're going to talk about managed services and why MSSPs are important for all different types of customers, including the customer profile that works well for Agile Blue, talk about some of the benefits, and then just kind of open it up to questions and answers. But to get us started, I really want to highlight the importance of understanding that cybersecurity does not have to be a security conversation anymore. It really needs to be about business resilience. If your focus is on building a resilient business, then you are doing what's most important for your company. And that is, right, protecting your employees and growing your business, right? Revenue. That's the key. And to do that, to really build that resilient business, it's about business continuity. Well, how can you protect against business continuity loss? You can look at your security functions in three buckets. It's that simple, right? The first is to anticipate bad things happening, understanding, preparing, predicting, using analytics. The second is withstanding, right? Making sure that you are detecting, investigating, containing bad things. And of course, the third is recovery. How quickly can you recover so your employees can go back to work, so you can continue to support your customers and move on from there? And understanding how you can now use artificial intelligence, because that's the buzzword, right? Resilience might be the word of the year for Avant, but artificial intelligence is the buzzword. And that's where I want to kick it back over to Tony to understand what is Agile Blue and what are you guys doing today?
Yeah, AI is definitely the buzzword, period, right? Probably for the next couple of years for everyone. So of course, if I didn't say Agile Blue was an AI company, I would disappoint everyone on this webinar. So quickly, like I opened up with, what we do at Agile Blue is really two things. We've built Cerillion, which is our AI-powered security operations platform. That is a technology that is not just monitoring an organization's entire infrastructure, cloud, on-prem, endpoints, everything. It's AI based. So our technology does, like we like to think, 95% of the work, but we still have a 24/7 US based security operations team that's there to be the final arbiter for our partners and our customers. So with that, we're globally monitoring, thousands of companies and hopefully keeping them safe. Just did another webinar about an hour ago, and it was all about mitigation, right? Like people talk about stopping everything. Well, hard to stop everything when the bad guys are just as good, right? But if we can mitigate, and that's what security operations is really good at, mitigating risk, we give our clients the ability to withstand those types of cyber attacks.
I love it. And one thing I want to point out, right? Agile Blue isn't just doing this in the United States. You see on this in the screen share right now that you guys have a global presence. And why is that important?
Well, I think it's important for two things, and not just to increase revenue, right? That's what everybody would probably think. Well, that's a driver. But a major driver is understanding security operations globally, threat intelligence that's affecting everything across the board, different industries, but also globally, what we're seeing. That helps. And it's interesting how it helps with threat intelligence, threat know-how, understanding how people are facing these same things. It helps our global presence, believe it or not, drive down to one customer that might be in Cleveland, Ohio, within the United States. So our global threat network really does impact every single customer, although every customer just sees, obviously, their implementation.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned Cerillion, your actual named product. And I'm curious, you guys have some phenomenal modules. You're continually adding to it. What made you choose these, and why is this important for those that are listening to understand what this does for them?
Yeah, Rick, you bring up a great point. Like, okay, so why did we choose these? To be candid, we didn't choose them. The market chooses them, is how we look at it. Okay. So when you look at what the seven most critical applications are, and where customers, or when you look at an MSP, a trusted advisor, they generally have 6 to 7 partners they're working with. And one of the frustrations is, well, one of the frustrations is cost. Second frustration is, how do you manage all this, right? So over the years, we looked at that and we said, if our application can do this holistically from the ground up, managed by one organization, one install, one very not noisy agent, can we do all this? And that's what we set out to do. We did, and it seems to be working pretty well. The last thing we added was the AI, right? Because that's new. And so SOAR's legacy, not everybody has SOAR, which is security orchestration and auto response, all these great acronyms. We think AI has killed SOAR, right? AI is where it is. So that's why we launched Sapphire Insights back in March.
Oh, that's wonderful. So I think it's always important for customers, for trusted advisors, for anyone who's looking to educate themselves on any type of product or service or solution to understand a case story. And I know you have one, so I'm going to shift over and I really want to hear this. I'm super excited.
Yeah, and thanks for that. And when you think about case studies should like almost be all we talk about today. Like, we think we're cool. Here's our great stuff. Blah blah blah. Everybody's like that. We get it. Case studies, those show how clients are being impacted. And I think this is a great one because, I mean, look at the time we're in. We're in election season. One of the biggest things we're hearing is critical infrastructure, right? Not just election stuff like you saw in Georgia last week, but critical infrastructure that could disrupt the United States economy, right? Energy. It could be policing. It could be financial, right? And hopefully it's not healthcare. But those are the big critical infrastructure aspects. When you look at energy, energy is huge. Whether you like it or not, energy is enormous. And without energy, our prices even go even further. So when you think about energy companies, keeping them secure is critical, right? And for some of these energy companies, it's not about being ransomware, which is a huge, obviously, problem. It's about disruption in their business. So we were talking to a customer, and when you try to understand if they're brought down for a day or a week or whatever the timeline is, what is that impact to their customers, right? So when you're an energy company, obviously that has a ripple effect. Just like anybody on this call, your partners, your customers, your advisors, there's that ripple effect that if one person goes down, there's a ripple effect to how many go down. So when you think about an energy organization, remote, vast, using cloud, using on-prem, have to be flexible enough for all that. Obviously need to be 24/7 because threats don't happen between 8 and 5. They generally start at like 5:01 to like 7:59, right? So like the stuff's going down, right? AI powered because generally the things that are hitting critical infrastructure, they could be nation state. They could be very advanced hackers, and they're not using like, an old phishing email that they're fishing out of the pond here. They are using new stuff. They're using deep fakes. They're using ChatGPT driven type of emails. They are using hacking techniques that are AI powered that are shifting on the go. We need that same type of technology that can do that. And the last thing I'm going to say is speed. When we notice something, we have to move fast. It can't be a bunch of humans sitting in a room debating, bias, figuring things out. It needs to be, this is bad or this is okay. We need to move fast, and here's exactly what needs to happen. That's what we think is the biggest key. That's what we do for people like Crowheart.
Love it. So let's pivot over and just start talking about that managed service, right? And how managed services can help. And I always like to throw a little brevity and a little humor into almost every conversation I have. And so managed services have a particular set of skills, right? We get it. If you haven't watched these movies, man, I don't know where you were for the past 10 years, but
Love them. They're
this
great.
is right. This is what they're there for. And ultimately, there's a ton of reasons why having a managed security service provider on your team, on your bench is going to help you win. It's going to help you stay resilient, right? It's crucial for preventing, for responding, as you mentioned before, to all types of attacks, especially ransomware, which we're starting to see that uptick again as we get closer to the holidays. And so I'm going to ask a couple quick questions here, Tony, because I think this is a great way for us to have this dialogue. But what is the difference between a managed service provider, MSP, and an MSSP, that security service provider?
Yeah. The security providers obviously have much more and probably a total focus on security and security products and implementations, right? Where MSPs, very focused on IT, very focused on more traditional. And you got to obviously have both, right? Because both not only work together, the MSSP is kind of protecting the MSP stuff, right? So you kind of got both of those. That's why I think you see a lot of organizations that are MSPs looking to become MSSPs as well, because now they've added more to their portfolio. They probably increased margin, probably definitely increased recurring revenue too, which is a big deal, right? But you can't just get there, and you can't just like you got 12 things on here. Theoretically, you can't just find 12 partners. How do you manage all that? How do you bundle it all? You can't. No one can. IBM can't, right? That's why they're even selling off parts of their security. When you can focus on some things, whatever those some things are to you, obviously AgileBlue is strictly a security operations platform. We don't do all these things, right? It allows you to become great at it. And if you can become great at something, not only are you providing something to the market and to your customers that not everyone can provide, you can totally build a sustainable, profitable business around that that allows you to grow, right? If you're everything, you kind of got to be good in everything. And not only finding the vendors, one of the biggest things we see in cyber, I'm sure everybody on this call sees it, that cyber skills gap. You kind of have to have someone that knows all this stuff really, really well. And hiring 12 people is just as hard as hiring two people these days in cyber. It's very difficult, right? So focus is really good. And if there's a focus within that focus, man, it could really be a big boon for the business.
No, and I appreciate that. It's a great point. And I always talk about some misconceptions around MSSPs, right? Some folks come to you and say, well, they all do the same thing. They all do everything, or they claim to do everything. And so, what's right for me? And I tell them some do, but look at the big one, right? FireEye Mandiant, right? They got
Sure.
split apart because they got too big. So go find what works for you. We talked about resilient business strategies. Find the one that's going to fit you. And really don't worry about the misconception about, hey, I need somebody to do everything all at once, everywhere. I need somebody to do something that's going to allow my employees and my business to continue to thrive. And
Right.
so how do you then see the role of a managed security service provider evolving with advancements of technology like the AI SecOps platform?
Yeah. Well, I think that is just the case. It's a great point you bring up. I'll relate it back to how we do business and kind of what we see. If we can use AI to be, like I said, that 90 to 95%, that automated detection, that automated case analysis, that automated maybe decisioning, then bring in that 24/7 person. I mean, we got lots of 24/7 people, but bring in that 24/7 team then that is able to critically be more of a critical thinker, more critical strategy to a specific customer, you've now married something really, really nice. And now we're able to be a tremendous 24/7 security operations platform to our customers and partners. We're not going out saying we can do then your pen tests and your training and awareness and your backups and recovery. We're very focused. So I think organizations can offer multiple things, no doubt about it. But when you look at the larger organizations and the ones getting the big funding now, the ones that are growing, they're kind of focused in three or four areas. Maybe they bring in some partners for some of the other areas. I do think focus in cyber is really important. And here's why: the landscape is more complex than ever, and the lack of understanding with that cyber skills gap is less than ever. So when you put those two things together, you can't be all things. Otherwise, you're probably going to fail. And by the way, when you mess with a client, as everybody on this call knows, and do maybe something bad here, you might lose that client for everything else, right? So really focus on the things that you can be good at. And I would say focus on the areas within cyber that are growing at a CAGR in double digits. Some of the other ones that aren't growing in double digits, more legacy types of security. Why invest there when you can invest in the technologies that are growing? And obviously, AI is a big push for that.
I love it. And so one thing that I always get questions on is how can I determine my need as a customer for a managed security service provider, an MSSP. And one of the things that always gets brought up, right, is the skills gap, the fact there's not enough people working in the market that know what to do. And I recently saw a study that's about to get deployed from one of the big five that said their research is showing that anyone that comes out of a boot camp, anyone that comes out of an academic undergrad or graduate degree has 6 years before they start to see signs of burnout. Well, take that one step further. Now you're adding to the skills gap, but also 78% of those coming out of there, brand new cyber employees, are going to an actual MSSP. They're not going to go support small businesses because they need the training quickly so they can last a little longer in the market. And so, with that in mind, how would you recommend people look for the sign that tells them, hey, we should be partnering with an MSSP?
Yeah. You bring up a fantastic point on that cyber skills gap. And actually, a big accounting firm, RSM, just came out with another study that shows even with the advent of technology, this gap is actually growing even more, right? Which is interesting. And that just shows that you probably got two things there, bad deployments, or maybe you're spreading these people a little too thin, right? And I think when you think about that MSSP of when it's time to partner and what they're absolutely looking for, I think it looks at looking at that book of business and understanding your business, understanding your customers, understanding where those growth metrics are, Rick. I'd throw it back to you in that quote, or excuse me, in that research that you just read. Did it talk about that gap widening, or is it just say, hey, it's big, it is what it is, try to figure it out, from here?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting. It's widening in the middle. So
Ah,
senior managers are still very viable, although I don't know if anybody wants to be a CISO anymore, right? So let's be real. But and then the newcomers are coming in pretty steady. The problem is the businesses don't want the new. They need somebody in that middle tier, 5 to 10 years of experience, and that's where the gap is growing.
yep. I would agree with that. And one of the biggest places folks come in at is at the pen test level and the SOC analyst level, right? And if they start burning out fast, which they do, and if you're not deploying technology to reduce that burnout and give them more challenging work, which is what we're seeing is working, and those people burn out in those roles, they could potentially just leave cyber, right? They can just go do something
Right.
else. And where they're going, some of the migrations from cyber are going into AI. And I'm going to give you two spots where they're going. They're going into AI, like BA, business analysis, because they know how things work. So they're trying to work with developers and to make it. And the other part, CISOs are transforming into this new role you're starting to see pop up. CAIOs, my God, this stuff's getting hard to say. And one of the fastest growing places in the US government, of course, that could change in the next week or so, but hopefully it won't because we need these roles, is that chief AI officer. You're starting to see these pop up all over the place. One of the biggest areas they're pulling this from, because AI is relatively new, there's not just AI guys laying around all over the place, AI guys and women, it's CISOs that get it and are moving
Yeah.
out of security into AI. So think about that big skills gap, and now it's probably getting a little bit bigger as well.
Yeah, for sure. So take us down this path really quick because we talk here about determining your need for an MSSP. What do you feel are some business resilient reasons for choosing an MSSP?
Business resilient reasons. One, let's talk on the revenue side of things. Security is got a tremendous recurring revenue side to it, and that allows us to be good providers to our customers, while giving us the security, that we need. That is a fantastic business case. The second part of that business case is, you're bringing your mindset, your thoughts into a very specific role that is going to grow your business, your consultancy. That is a huge identifier as well. And then probably number three, I'd have to assume for a lot of you, the huge gain there is differentiating from some of your competitors, right? Everybody's saying they're an MSP or maybe a TA or maybe an MSSP, but as people dive in, what are they really, right? So when you look at what you can bring to the table, I think that is a huge differentiator of where they could find partnerships, where they could bring these skill sets internally and then take this to market. When they get to market, that's where they're going to see, I think, excellent upside for themselves and the business.
Well, and I'll take it even one step further as we move into the next area that we're going to talk about, and that's you as a customer will have a differentiator because you've chosen an MSSP to protect you. You're resilient, and now your business focus is your employees doing what you hired them to do. And that's where we talk about ideal customer profile, right? And most people who are our trusted advisors, most people who are our providers and partners that we work with, they understand. And in a moment, Tony, I'll have you walk through what Agile Blue's ideal customer profile is. But I think we need to put the onus on the customer to realize what they actually are, what their profile actually is, because they have to attack their customer base. But in order to truly be a resilient business, to have good cybersecurity, they need to know what type of customer they are. And so that's my push out to any customers who are out there watching and listening. But Tony, this is your chance. What is Agile Blue's ideal customer profile?
We were founded on a SMB mid-market profile. To us, that means organizations under 1,500 employees, right? And here's why. When you look at those deltas over that amount of employees, organizations maybe start building out their own security operations team. And under that, it's less than 7% of global organizations under 1,500 employees have their own SOCs. So the growth even in greenfield is huge. Number one. Number two, if you're signing a 2 or 3 year deal, generally we all know how things go, and this happens everybody, right? AgileBlue included. You're going to lose some of those early customers. So obviously sometimes those repeats get bigger as organizations do two things: grow either up or down, hopefully up, and then M&A, right? M&A plays a huge factor, whether you're working with organizations that are acquiring or the opposite. So there's always movement in the market. So we look at ICP being organizations, and look, everybody always says cyber can appeal to any company. 100% true. We all know that, yes. But that's really hard to say my TAM is the world, right? Come on, that doesn't work. And TAM is a total addressable market. I should never use acronyms, I know. But ICP, under 1,500 employees, we know there's low penetration. We know there's high demand. Give you one more number. Right now, Gartner says in the SMB market, I think it's 17% of organizations are using SOC, MDR, however you look at it, SecOps. They think that number gets to 50% by 2028. So you're talking huge growth just within that market organically. That's great. Number one. Number two, mission critical businesses. Now, every business is mission critical. I don't care if you're a nuclear provider or government or you run a candy store. To you, that candy store is mission critical. If it's paying the bills, it's mission critical. But to us, we want to focus on organizations that when they go down, there's an entire supply chain that could go down. So SLED is really important. It's our largest health organization. Healthcare financial services are next, and then high technology. When you look at those factors of those types of organizations, it's not like if they go down, them and like a couple of providers go down. There's a very long tail that goes down, and that long tail depends on the head, so to speak. And we love getting into organizations at the critical infrastructure level and saying, we are there to make sure you and everybody that relies on you is going to be okay. So we like that larger SMB, but the ones that are very critical in the supply chain, that's the challenge we like. Now, at the end of the day, do we have companies that don't fit that profile right there that have been brought by partners and customers? We do. We absolutely do. We don't turn down good business, but where we focus, we're very solid where we focus. We definitely focus on that under 15 and more of a critical infrastructure type of organization. By the way, one last thing I'll say: manufacturing. Everybody always says, "Oh, manufacturing." Manufacturing is very critical. I mean, we work with a partner that develops a screw that goes into potential missile systems, and you're thinking, well, okay, how important is that screw? I don't think you can keep those big missiles together if you don't have the screws. So it's funny, even the smallest little manufacturers that people say, no, mission critical.
You guys, Agile Blue, you guys are gluttons for punishment when it comes to the regulatory world, but I appreciate the sharing of the ICP. We're going to talk about the benefits of having an AI-powered security operations platform, but I want people to understand that anytime we're talking about AI, right, we're seeing this doubling of new solutioning every 8 to 12 months, right? And it used to be that every 5 years you'd see a double in compute. Well, now AI is expanding that quickly. And AI SecOps is really there to revolutionize a cyber operation. It helps automate threat detection, response, it reduces human error. It helps with that withstand component of the cyber resilience that I shared earlier. And then you add even more AI driven solutions and it strengthens your defense. it boosts your efficiency, it could protect against those real world attacks, which really is about that response component, that anticipatory component, and it makes recovery that much faster. And Tony, this is your baby. This is what Agile Blue knows. So what are these benefits for having this type of security operations platform?
Yeah, yeah, Rick, it's a great point. And again, I just mentioned I came off of another webinar with Elastic talking about next generation SIM and how AI plays a part of that. One of the big things that AI brings to the table is that predictability as well, right? So we're seeing way more predictable results of getting out ahead in terms of a proactive way to get out ahead of a potential cyber attack, all the way to the point where you can ask your platform now. To us, it's called Sapphire. So when we release Sapphire, which I think launches here in the next 2 weeks, our next version of Sapphire, Sapphire is already live. We can say, hey, am I seeing a cyber attack right now to my domain server, right? Something looks wonky. Now, can you talk to someone in the SOC? Can you email someone in the SOC? Can you Slack? Sure. But we all know a lot of techies that are probably on this call, or maybe techies you know or sell to, like to do things themselves. So we should be able to ask those questions right out. By the way, where AI is really advancing is in that same scenario, AI talking to you, not in a creepy voice, not into the Elon Tesla crazy robot type of crazy voice, but coming to you and saying, I'm noticing this DNS server looks weird. Like, let's do something here. And here's what I recommend, right? That's where it's going. Now, you got to be very confident because you can't just start putting up alarm bells everywhere. So there's that level of accuracy that you see here. That's really important. But that leads all the way to boosting of efficiency, to obviously strengthening defenses. Because think about it. At the end of the day, cybersecurity is defense. It is reactive to something happening. I said this on my last thing. I played football in college and I played safety, and I was the guy who always got yelled at because when someone scored, who do they yell at? This guy. Made my college life a little bit more miserable in some regards. But here's the point. If you can go on a little bit of proactiveness with your cyber, and this is what AI is bringing in, it definitely allows us to mitigate things much faster and more accurately than we've seen. So when you look at future-proofing security, getting out ahead of things, and probably just being able to match what we're seeing the bad guys using, this is the benefits of where AI is bringing to the table. The last thing I'll say is this. All of our digital, everything we do these days is digital, and it keeps going up like this. More logs, more infrastructure, more of this, blah, blah, blah. We all know this, right? This is why you guys are in business, right? This is why. The more you have, the more data you have, the more correlations there are. You're not getting through this with people or just regular machine learning. It needs this advanced powered AI driven by LLMs that totally understand these anomalies in these behaviors.
I love it. Well, we're going to go to Q&A. So if there are anybody in the audience that has a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll have our team kind of ping us on it. But I did get a couple of questions from folks that are on the webinar already who had asked, hey, are you guys going to talk about this? And one of the things that they asked, just because we were just talking about instant response and a benefit of the AI SecOps was, hey, how does Agile Blue and their artificial intelligence improve response times?
Yeah. It's funny. Here, I'm going to give you two data points, and I'm going to give you something that you see in SLAs. Generally, every SLA you see with SecOps is like, hey, in under 30 minutes, if it's real, we're on it. Great. That's fast. And I don't disagree with that. And our SLAs have 30 minutes in it. We've been with AI since our adoption back in March, we've been moving in a matter of minutes. And that's a differentiator. So two numbers. Since we launched AI for our customers, this isn't for AgileBlue's benefit, this is our customers' benefit. 49.7% increase in human speed, meaning doing something on a true positive, a true alert, an escalated alert, 69.7. So just size 70% over the first 8 months on non-escalated. So that says, oh, wow, you become a more efficient organization. Yeah, but I would say a more effective one. The accuracy and the speed is what's going to help us mitigate this cyber risk, which we think those numbers are going to continue to go up. And by the way, 8, 9 months of sample size data, not enough. We want years of this, but we all know AI is new. Try to get data from Perplexity and ChatGPT. It's just too new yet, but it's coming. And the early results are showing it is absolutely working.
All right, wonderful. Hey, Matthew Sanner just posted a question and we're going to answer it live right now. So you kind of already alluded to it. Are you remediating or just notifying and alerting? And I know the answer and I'm going to love the answer, but here you go.
No, you got to remediate. I think you have to remediate. Some customers want to do their own, but it's the handful. They want us to not only detect, they want us to be sure, and they want us to go ahead and respond and then remediate if you have to, but at least get to the response level. And I think you're seeing more organizations opening up to that, especially, I'm sorry, I forgot the gentleman's first name, especially with the cloud. So let me give you an example. Sitting right here where I am with a client, 365, somebody clicked on something, they got a hold of, bad guys got a hold of their 365 account, started creating rules and things like that. We can disable that account in seconds, right? And that's the key, is getting that in seconds, hopefully rolling it back. If not, getting it disabled, then pushing things back manually, however you have to do it. But that's the point. You got to get things moved back. So that response and remediation are critical, we think, in security operations.
Love it. So another question from the crowd, actually from Anthony Schmidt. He asks, how easily does your AI solution integrate with popular SIMs, SOARs, EDRs, or other security solutions that are already being used?
Really good question. And if I forget your name, Anthony, I'm a moron because my name's Anthony. I just go by Tony. Anthony, when my mom is really upset. Okay, with everything you mentioned, firewalls, EDRs, um, you name the security stack, we 100% integrate with all of them. And I do mean all of them. Not only do we integrate with them, we can also push commands for them to do something. Not all of them, because not all of them allow that, but through APIs, we can push commands for response as well. The only area we are very focused on is the SIM. Our platform actually includes the SIM. It's what makes us very unique. So when a client works with us, they're actually getting the enterprise SIM. They can log into it if they actually want to. Very few do, but they can. We've partnered with Elastic from day one. So they get that enterprise SIM. If somebody's already Splunk or something like that, we're not going to pull the data from Splunk. It is going to come into our SIM. And by the way, when you look at speed, efficiency, AI, correlations, machine learning, all the things that make that process really gel, an integrated SIM at the holistic level, built up from the ground up, is way different than just adding a SIM. And that's why we did this with Elastic a long time ago. And then because we're a small, mid-sized provider, the Elastic point of everything it provides, including the price point, works. Some of the other SIMs are just don't work from a pricing perspective.
So it looks like we had a question. The person might have fallen off, but this is from Jeff. Jeff asks, for those that are apprehensive about adopting artificial intelligence cybersecurity solutions, what would you tell them? Can it be trusted? And I'll actually give a quick response on that.
Yep.
Good data in, good data out, right? So this is where you can get support from readiness programs, making sure that your artificial intelligence internally for your analytics are being used right. But our security vendors, our providers that are doing this, just like AgileBlue, this is their focus point: is good data in, good data out. And so, Tony, I'll let you kick that back. I'll reread it since I took control of it for a second. But
No, I got it.
those that are apprehensive about adopting AI cyber, what would you tell them? Can it be trusted?
So just, I'm going to tell you this right now, everyone is still a little apprehensive, right? Because we've seen some really, really good, and we've also seen some bad stuff too. A woman actually asked me last week in Austin, I was doing a presentation and at an MSSP alert. So if any of you were there, and I'm saying this, you're getting a repeat. She said, "Hey, would you bet your paycheck that your AI is always right?" And I said, "Hey, I would bet your paycheck." No, I didn't say that, but I would bet her paycheck. But no, we're getting to the point where we would. So let me say this. Everybody's apprehensive on the response side because they don't want to just see things being shut down, firewalls, DNS servers, accounts, just shut down randomly. They want to know there's a structure in place. They want to know it's tested, it's been tabletopped, it works the way it wants, there's a playbook. But at the end of the day, no matter all the great data I just shared, there's still human beings in charge. And as of 2025, and I will say as of 2026, over the next couple of years, human beings are still integral part of every playbook and every process. As things get smarter, the AI might do more and probably should do more. But right now, we're still working with each other a little bit and feeling it out. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Human beings are still an integral part. It's just let's take all the mundane workflows away. AI can handle it. Let's let the humans worry about the tough stuff.
I love it. Well, with that, everyone, if you need to get in touch with us, right, there's our information, both mine and Tony's. We love to chat with people. We love to educate. I think both of us are super keyed in on that. But his title is much bigger than mine. So, Tony, I want you to be able to end this conversation. Any cool final insights about why this is such an awesome solution?
Look, Rick, thanks so much for hosting me today. And by the way, love the beard. You got to stay with that, man. It looks fantastic. But clean shaven Rick looks great too. Don't get me wrong. Look, here's the last thing I'll say. Look, we all know it's AI, AI, AI. We all hear it. When you go into an organization and can present what your capabilities are, having these capabilities is important. Not important, it's critical. What's important is you're working with people who have extraordinarily knowledgeable people, people who can show the data, people who can show where the AI makes the difference, but still have that 24/7 team that is there for their customers. That is what makes people sleep a little bit better at night. Can't do something about insomnia, but we can help them with the way that they're thinking and maybe getting up in the night thinking about cyber. So look, I really appreciate everybody giving us 36 minutes so far. Any questions, let us know. There's our information. But really appreciate you having me today.